I'm excited for this season of Rocket Motivation because my firm, Hand, Arundel, Harris & Sale, Attorneys at Law, where I am a partner, is our sponsor. We understand life and running a business can be challenging, but with the right support, it can also be incredibly rewarding. That's why we're thrilled to announce our partnership with Hand, Arundel, Harris & Sale.
I did not have to be a victim to my circumstances. I did not have to be a victim to the fact that the economy was falling apart around me or what have you, that I could change my mindset and look to the future and overcome this.
Hey everyone, this is Cate, and welcome to Rocket Motivation Podcast. This week's guest was a real estate agent when the Great Recession hit. She lost all of her sources of income, couldn't pay her mortgage, and she and her 2 daughters had to move back in with her parents. And it got worse from there. She's going to tell her story about how she had only $4 bills to her name, but used that as a catalyst to launch into her dream life. Jacki Semerau Tait, welcome to Rocket Motivation Podcast.
Rod, thank you so much for having me.
All right. It's a pleasure to have you on. Well, Jacki, let's do this. Tell us where you are now in your life, your family, your career, kind of where you live, kind of just catch us all up.
Yeah, you bet. So right now I am in Flagstaff, Arizona. My husband and I moved up here 10 years ago, and I am a real estate agent. I lead a successful real estate team. We're our top producing team in our brokerage and all that good stuff. But my daughters are both launched into adulthood successfully and doing well. So couldn't ask for more. And I have to say, I've got a wonderful dog named Zoe. Anybody who knows me knows I'm going to talk about my dog.
All right. Well, shout out to Zoe. All right. Well, so let's do this. Let's go back before the financial crisis, the Great Recession. All right. Tell us about your life before that hits.
So I got into real estate in 2002. I decided to do that. My ex-husband and I, at the time, were looking at getting involved with our own investment properties. And the realtor that we were working with just wasn't really helping us the way that we thought would be beneficial. So I decided to get my real estate license only with the intention of, representing our own investment properties. But I fell in love with real estate, and I decided I wanted to do this. I wanted to do this for a living. I wanted to work with clients, and that's indeed what I started doing. So that was in 2002, right before times got really good. Fast forward a little bit, and my ex-husband and I went through a divorce. I'm a single mom now with a toddler and almost kindergartner, preschooler. And so I jumped in wholeheartedly, and I will tell you that it was the best of times until it was the worst of times. And when the Great Recession hit, I owned my own home and I lost all my sources of income. Things completely fell apart. Anybody in real estate can relate to the fact that I had a couple of things in escrow that were, high dollar, and the commissions from that could pay my bills for the rest of the year. And then the stock market crashed in June. Both of those clients went away. They canceled. Their financial reality changed, which thereby changed my financial reality. And after struggling to try and get back up on my feet, I finally had to make the decision to stop paying my mortgage. It was either don't pay your mortgage or don't put food on the table or keep the lights on. And after making that difficult decision, thinking, I'll get back up on my feet. It'll be okay. I'll get caught up. It didn't work out that way. I ended up having to short sell my house, packed up my kids and my stuff and my pride, and moved back in with my parents. And at the time, I thought, this is as bad as it gets. And it's only going to take me a few months to get back up on my feet. I have an incredible work ethic. I'm hard. I will go at it. I will do whatever it takes. What I didn't foresee coming is that it wasn't just me struggling. So there was a whole nation at that time that was going through their own version of what I was going through. So it wasn't that easy to get back up on my feet. And quite frankly, it took 2.5 years. I thought maybe couple months, nope, 2.5 years before I was able to get back up on my feet and get my girls and I back into our own place and become self-sufficient again. And it was during this time when I lived with my parents that I found myself down to my last $4. I had a bank account that was at zero. I had another bank account that was completely overdrawn. And I can still remember looking in my wallet that morning and seeing my 4 single dollar bills and realizing this is my net worth today.
Right. Okay. And so you look in there, the harsh reality of your net worth is $4 hits you in the face. All right. But I know you start climbing out. When that reality hits, you got $4, that's it. So how do you start climbing out?
The first thing is I definitely allowed myself a little bit of a breakdown. I mean, it's okay. You have to feel your moment, and it's okay to not ignore that emotion and that feeling of overwhelm. But I used to do this thing called a 30-minute breakdown. In that period of time, if things were really tough and I felt overwhelmed, I was like, you got 30 minutes, girl. 30 minutes to give into this, 30 minutes to give into your overwhelm, and I don't know what I'm going to do. And at the end of that 30 minutes, and I kid you not, I would set a timer. At the end of that 30 minutes, it was like, all right, wipe the tears or get up out of the bed or whatever you did to get yourself through that. And now let's go. And so you don't ignore the reality by trying to put on rose-colored glasses. You have to address the reality. From there, you have to look up and look ahead. You have to see what's coming up in your future. Know that what you're going through in that moment is not meant to take you down. It's going to serve your higher purpose. But you have to know, what does that look like? You have to connect with that higher purpose, that higher meaning. Where are you heading? Where are you going? Where do you want to be in the future? Then work your way backwards. Okay, so how does this moment lead me to my ultimate future? And I knew I have a very strong faith in God. And I knew that what I was going through in that moment was going to be used for God's glory in the future.
Well, so how did you actually do it?
Yeah. So the first thing that morning, I woke up, I looked in my wallet, saw the $4. I had a networking coffee meeting later in the day. So I go through my little breakdown, then I get myself back up, get dressed, try to put on my best face forward, and show up to this networking coffee meeting. And this person was in a networking group that I was in. He was also a friend. And I get there, I order my cup of water because no way am I spending my last $4 on a pricey cup of coffee. And I sit down and we start to chat, and he had a referral for me and all the good things that you talk about in a networking meeting. But at one point he looked at me and he goes, okay, what gives? What's going on? And I said, I don't know what you mean. He goes, nope, something's wrong. I can tell you're not yourself. Now, I tend to be someone who holds things close to my chest as I'm going through them. Right now, I'm sharing things from a different perspective, but when I'm in the midst of it, I try and work it all out. So for me to even open up to this person I have no idea why I did in that moment, but it just felt right. And so I opened up to him. I didn't tell him I was down to my last $4, but I just said, hey, listen, everything I'm doing to try and get back up on my feet just doesn't seem to be working out. And at that time, I was using my marketing and advertising background to try and pay the bills while I got back up on my feet in real estate. And so I was doing some work for some different companies, but they were going through hard times too and couldn't pay the marketing person. So I had some invoices that were outstanding and I just couldn't get paid. And I didn't know when someone was going to pay those. And at the time, we had just moved back in with my parents a few months earlier, and my girls had to switch schools. And so the school they went to before, they had, it was a private school. They wore uniforms. Now they're going to public school. I needed to buy them school clothes and I had no money to do it. And they were going to start school in 3 days. And so this friend said, listen, I just feel like this might help you. And he gave me $300 and he said, go buy your kids some clothes. And I said, thank you so much. As soon as I get one of these invoices that come in, I will pay you back. And he said, nope. I want you to pay it forward. And that was the start of realizing that when you're going through these hard times, you have to look for the helpers. Sometimes in our weaknesses and in our struggles and in our adversities, that is meant so that somebody else can use their gifts, their talents, their treasures to help you. We are created for connection in this world, and we can't do it all alone. Society says you can do it all, you can be it all, you can have it all, but I don't think you can be it all without the help of others. And so that was the first thing, was looking for the help of others and being vulnerable and asking for the help that I needed in the moment. It was step one.
Right. How long did it take you to get back on your feet where you could actually move out of your parents' house and start living a life where, you're the one who's going to be, paying the bills and paying the mortgage and somewhat self-sufficient?
It took 2.5 years to get back up on my feet and to be able to move out. And that was a long process. Part of that is obviously before moving in with my parents, before hitting my last $4, I had maxed out credit cards. I had taken out loans. So not only was I down to my last $4, but I was significantly in debt. And so instead of moving out and having all that debt, my parents were gracious enough to say, listen, get yourself out of some of this debt, get yourself to the point where you can be self-sufficient and self-sustaining. And so that's what I did. And along the way, I had some great opportunities, ended up working with some amazing people. And I still remember when I was able to move out, I got my girls and I rented a 3-bedroom apartment in Northeast Phoenix. And I'll tell you what, that 3-bedroom apartment felt like a palace.
Right. And what is based upon what you've been through and that, you're up here, you're as bottom as it gets, you're back up. So what is your message? What is your main message on, that you want to tell people about, when things are down, you can come back?
The main thing is that circumstances that seem disastrous at the time can be the very thing needed to move you out of your own way and connect you with that higher purpose and the path that you're meant to walk in life.
Right.
If not for this time in my life, there's so many things that I would not have seen, I would not have connected with. One of the things I had to get real and raw with myself about during this period of time is that when I look back at who I was prior to losing everything, I realized I was a paycheck player. I loved what I did, but I did it for the money. And going through this period of time, I realized that money comes and money goes, and so what? You have to have something bigger behind the what you do. You have to have the why you do it. And so even though before I went through this, I was a real estate agent, and now today I'm a real estate agent. But when I got back up on my feet in real estate, I showed up so much differently. I'm not here because I want to, get the deal, get the transaction, get it done. I'm here because I have the honor to help other people make their dreams come true, whether that's moving into a new house to accommodate their growing family, or selling their house and getting the most money out of it possible because this is their biggest asset to help them and their family. So that's what I want them to know, is that you have to connect with it. Know that this isn't the end. It could just be a beginning, but really use that time to examine the why. What is your purpose? That's the main message.
Well, and let me ask you this. Your ability to do what you did, to be at rock bottom and to come out of it, what have you learned about yourself? You're the type of person that can do this. So, so looking back on it, yeah. So basically, what have you learned about yourself?
I can handle a lot more than I thought I could. But also, the other thing is that it is a lot about who you surround yourself with. I realized that I had done a really good job of surrounding myself with people who were overcomers before I even went through this. And so when I went through this and I realized that there were people who were going, who reached in and helped me in whatever way, and some of them don't even realize they helped. Some have no idea the ripple effect that maybe their words or their actions took in my life in that moment. But I think of one friend who she knew that I was going through a hard time, and she had bought Les Brown's 6 CD set. So I'm aging myself here, but she bought the 6 CD set of Les Brown's Choosing Your Future. And I used to listen to those on repeat all the time. And it really helped change my mindset. It helped change the way I was looking at things, the way that I was showing up. And what I learned about myself is that I didn't have to be a victim. I did not have to be a victim to my circumstances. I did not have to be a victim to the fact that the economy was falling apart around me or what have you, that I could change my mindset and look to the future and overcome this.
Right. And how have you used what you've gone through and what you've learned to help others?
Interestingly enough, it's not a story that I want to share. It's a story I do share because I do feel that sense of responsibility. I mentioned Les Brown and the role just his 6 CD set played in my life. Fast forward to 2021, and I had the opportunity to personally mentor with Les Brown. And it was working with him that made me realize that had he not gotten vulnerable and shared his story and the lessons that he learned as he went through his moments of adversity, it wouldn't have touched my life to help me get out of that situation. And so I actually did co-author a book with Les Brown where I share my $4 story publicly for the first time. And it was in working with him in that aspect that made me realize that if I keep this story to myself, it's a bit of a wasted story, that I have the responsibility to share this with someone, because even if it only resonates with one other person, even if only one other person can use my story to help encourage them to get out of their story of adversity, then it's worthwhile. And I've moved forward. I've paid that forward.
Yeah. And why has it been important for you to help others?
I think that's why we're here. I think that's part of each one of our higher purpose. I don't think we are meant to do this on our own. And we're not meant to do this just for, me and mine. It's not about like, oh, I'm going to hoard my resources to just me and my family. I think it's important that whatever that resource is, whether it's a story of adversity, if it's time, if it's treasure, whatever that looks like, if it's expertise that you can lend to someone else, we're here to help serve others. And I think that's the biggest reason we exist. So that's why, to me, that's so important. If I'm not sharing that, I'm not living my highest purpose.
Right. And here's just a very simple, basic question. What should we want out of life?
What should we want out of life?
And I'm just I'm just joking that it was a very simple, basic question. And maybe to make it though simpler is, what drives true happiness in life? And I don't know, maybe true happiness isn't just what we should be seeking, but just based on what you've been through, kind of what are your thoughts on that, on what should we want out of life?
All right. Well, I'll get real with you on that one in terms of my perspective. Now, I'm not saying this has to be everybody else's perspective too, but I will tell you that I don't think we're here to be happy. I think happiness is a bonus, but I think joy is a choice. So you can live with joy even when you're not happy. You can live with joy in any circumstance. But I do believe that the reason we're here is to know God and be known by God. That, to me, is the reason we're here, is to connect with a holy God who loves us and created us, and how we are meant to get closer to him in our relationship with him, and how we can serve others by doing so. Gotcha.
What advice would you give to people that are having tough times, that are dealing with adversity on trying to get out of it? What do you tell them?
I think the first thing is that number one, like I said earlier, you have to allow yourself to feel it. It's okay. Don't listen to motivational people and think, okay, I got to put on the rose-colored glasses and I got to show up going, everything is awesome, when it's not. You have to feel it, connect with it, be okay with it, but understand that it's not the end. It's the beginning of a chapter that is part of a greater story. So you have to look forward and go, okay, when this chapter is over and that page turns, what do I want that next chapter to look like? Where do I feel this is leading me? And when you can connect with that, you can look and see, okay, this is where I want to be in my future. And from that point forward, you can start to draw that line mentally as to where you are today. How does that get you to where you want to be in the future? And then you start to take the steps to look forward. But you have to have that greater vision. You can't be stuck with your blinders on, seeing only the adversity.
Right. And let's talk about, you mentioned your book or books. Tell us about those.
So the first book that went bestseller was the one I co-wrote with Les Brown, which was very exciting. It's called Ignite the Hunger in You. I then also wrote another book with that same publisher called Ignite Your Faith. And so that was a great experience as well. And I have a children's book that is called Time to Fly. And honestly, that's the one I'm the most proud of. And I will tell you, I wrote that book as a little poem. I was 20 years old, maybe 19. I was still living with my parents. I sat in their backyard and this poem just sort of flowed out of me. And then I sat on it. I didn't think anything of it. This is part of my creative self and who I am. And years later, I dusted that poem off and I went, I think this is something. So I worked with an editor. We refined it, turned it into a children's book. I hired an illustrator. And I'm very proud that that book got published almost 20 years after I originally wrote the book. But if you read it now, I can honestly tell you it's an autobiography because it's about a baby bird who's afraid to fly. And this baby bird tries to do all sorts of other things that it wasn't meant to do and tries to talk his mama bird into letting him try these other things. And finally, he does step into what he was created to do. And of course, he soars. Right. And I think that's me. If I would have known when I wrote that at the age of 20, I was going to try all these things that really weren't a good fit before I stepped into who I was truly meant to be. Right. I would have. I don't know. It was an interesting insight. Yeah.
And do you do speaking also?
I do.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. In fact, I just got back from a conference that was a lot of fun.
Well, and if people want to, or if any of the listeners want to follow you, maybe get you to speak at an event or buy your books, what's the best way that people can follow you?
The best way is if you go to stepstostrength.com, because that's got links for all of my, my books, my YouTube channel, my speaking, my coaching, all that fun stuff. I think that would be the best way for us to get connected.
Okay, great. Well, Jacki, I want to thank you so much for coming on. This has been a great show. I'm glad we got hooked up to do this. But it's I always give the guests the parting shot, so you're not getting away that easy. So if you could reach down, kind of give us something great that we hadn't already talked about, and just something really good to take us home.
The best thing I can give you is to say that sometimes surrender is the most powerful place you can be. And so when you find yourself in the bottom of where you are at, being able to truly surrender and say, okay, God, what do you have for me? Let's go. This isn't about me. I'm not going to keep trying to struggle my way into what I think life should be. Let's see where this takes me. Let's ride the rapids and let's go. And sometimes that's where you find your biggest power.
All right. Great way to end it, Jacki. All right. Well, thanks so much for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me.
What a great episode with Jacki Semerau Tait. Down to her last $4 and then blasting off from there and figuring it all out. Tune in next week to another inspiring episode of Rocket Motivation Podcast. Thanks again for listening to Rocket Motivation. I want to again thank our sponsor, my law firm, Hand, Arundel, Harris & Self, with offices in Mobile, Birmingham, Fairhope, and Athens, Alabama, and Destin, Panama City Beach, and Santa Rosa Beach, Florida. We are uniquely situated among the Southeast major law firms to provide legal direction to clients throughout Alabama and Northwest Florida. So whether you're looking for legal advice, litigators, or simply a partner you can trust, Hand, Arundel, Harris & Self is there for you. Thank you for listening, and be sure to check out Hand, Arundel, Harris & Self for all your legal needs. Visit our website at handfirm.com. And if you would like to get my book, Get Back Up, It's available at Amazon. Just put in Get Back Up and my name, Rod Cate, and the book will pop up. I'd appreciate it if you would subscribe to Rocket Motivation wherever you listen to your podcasts. And please rate and review the shows and spread the word about Rocket Motivation to your friends. So until next time, remember, never give up and always get back up.